So hello everyone, welcome to this interview. I'm Jessica from the Biotechnology Student Society. I'm here with Professor Renee to talk more about her and her experience as a teacher. Hello, Professor.
Hello.
So the first question that I wanted to ask is, can you share with us some hobbies you have? What do you do in your spare time besides?
I have so many. Indoor ones or outdoor ones?
Let's go outdoors.
Outdoor ones. In the winter, I do a lot of snowboarding and I teach snowboarding. And in both winter and summer, I play a lot of tennis. And I play tournaments and stuff. And then I have a dog, so I walk a lot outside. We did outdoor ones, right? Yeah. So that's pretty much my outdoor ones.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, and gardening. I have a big garden.
Oh, do you harvest your own tomatoes? No,
they're all like perennial flowers. So they just do the thing, and then I cut them off, and then the next one comes up. Yeah.
Okay, great. The next question is, what courses are you teaching this semester?
So this semester I have food chemistry, a couple of food chemistries, and then I have biochem too.
Mm-hmm. And what other courses have you teach?
I just started teaching recombinant DNA, which I love. That is, I didn't realize we had that course. It's the closest to my background. But I also do analytical chemistry and analytical instrumentation, which I love that course too. And what else? I did systematic micro and food micro. I think that's all.
Okay. And what led you to teaching?
So I worked in research for a very long time, and then I love my job, but due to political things happening in the lab, I just got really fed up and I quit my job. And so I was kind of looking around, and it's actually hard to find a job in research, but that was at the same level where I was. And so a friend brought me around to the different colleges and kind of pushed me in the door to meet people. And I met my boss, Steve, there, and actually at the same time I got a job. So I started off teaching at both Centennial and Seneca the same semester. Yeah. And it works well when you've just come from working at a job and then you're teaching people how to do what you need in your job.
Yeah. And what do you want to transmit to students besides the theoretical knowledge?
Well, so the theoretical knowledge I love, but it's really, I guess one of the things that I like people learning, not students always don't want to learn, but is to learn how to think practically, like how to troubleshoot and learn the experiment, but if it goes wrong or if you want to improve it or something, how you can do that or something. And a lot of times you give them tips, but people don't really care. But that's one thing that I think is useful in all of life. If something doesn't work, you just have to figure out how to get it to work.
That's the hardest knowledge, right? You have to think by yourself and reason and find the reason why things are happening.
Yeah.
And seeing it from the other side, what has students taught you?
Oh my gosh, so there's so many students from different places that it's really interesting seeing all the different students and how they think and how they look at things differently. Yeah, it's really, I never expected that when I started teaching, is how many different types of thinkers and people from different places there are. It's very cool.
Each one with their own backgrounds has different perspectives
on, or if they don't understand it, it's how they don't understand it or something. It's really interesting, And even some of the students with special needs are really interesting, they're so good at some things, and then it's always, it's like a little challenge to figure out how you can get this information to them. It's fun.
It's challenging for you, but it must be rewarding to let them understand.
It is when they get it. It's really fun.
And talking about the students and the students in class, how can one student stand out from the peers? Because we're all having the same knowledge, the same information. How can one stand out? What can make them unique?
In class or in a job interview?
In a job interview, in the job market.
So I was kind of thinking about this. I think that the students who actually really understand the material they're doing, you kind of stand out on your own, because when they ask you a question, you're analytically thinking and answering with specifics and thinking about the actual question, as opposed to if you didn't really pay attention to the lab and you didn't really wrote your report up the night before. When they ask you a question, you're kind of like, yeah, and you don't really know the material. I think that by actually knowing what you're talking about when you go into an interview, it really sets you apart from people who just want a job and are going to say anything, you know. And I think it's true also in class, the students who actually have focused in on the experiment, they understand it, they understand what went right, what went wrong, how it worked, they do really well. But the ones who study the night before and then go into the exam and haven't really looked at it, you know, it's night and day you can tell in their marks and in how they present their stuff.
And also when they speak about the topic, maybe it's the security that gives me, the confidence they have.
It's true. If you understand it, you can speak about it confidently. But if you don't, you kind of...
Yes. And about studying, do you have any tips for time management for students?
So for me, I find things like, you know, putting things off for when you have a lot of things to do, because with all my hobbies and my marking and teaching, I find I have a lot of time management to do. I have to prioritize it sometimes, is I just have to sit down because I get stressed, and then I'm just like, okay, let's just organize this. I have to have this by this, this by this, this by this. And I actually write it all out for myself. And then it makes it, you're not as stressed once you see the picture of what you need to get done, and you just start doing one at a time, whichever one is most important at the time, and just work your way through them, only thinking about the one thing at a time, because as soon as you have all of them, it's really hard. And time management, like, you guys have a lot on the go. I think as a student, I've always thought this, that as a student, it's like harder than almost any other time of your life. I think lawyers and stuff have really hard schedules, but in general, like, when do you have 5 subjects and 5 labs and lectures, and you have to get all of that, exams in 1 week? It's really kind of crazy. So it gets stressful, and that makes it worse for organizing yourself, right? But if you can kind of make a list and prioritize it, and then just start at one point and start working through
Step by step.
Yeah,
sometimes we get overwhelmed, and at the end it wasn't that much, but it was all disorganized in our head.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I find the same thing. I get super overwhelmed, and when I get to that point, I know I have to make a list, because once I organize it, it's easy. You just start ticking off your list, and then it's like, that wasn't so bad. Yeah.
And the last question that I wanted to ask you is, do you have any networking tips, something that can, like, get us to know people?
Yeah, so I think like, it really depends on the field you're in. I worked in research, so I worked in cancer research and in molecular biology labs and stuff. So I find, like, the Mars building for me, or they sometimes have conferences, not conferences, but they have, what do you call them, displays where they'll have booths set up and stuff like that. And if you go down and you talk to people about their work, because the best way is to meet people who are in the field already and tell them your interests, and sometimes they're hiring someone, or sometimes they know someone who's hiring someone, but finding a lab that you're interested in, really, like finding out. So I don't really know about food industry, even though I'm teaching food chemistry, but in research, if you can go to some of the seminars or what are they called?
Gatherings,
yeah, when they all set up booths and just show their work and stuff like that. What do you call that? Career days or whatever, yeah. And if there's someone who's working on something you're interested in, like, oh, that would be great, and see if you can get in, ask them if you could see their lab, if you could, the more personal contact you have, the better, because they remember you. It's part of one of those, once you talk to them, and they remember your face, as opposed to, they have mountains, like in our lab, we used to get stacks of resumes and people who wanted a job, and I don't think he ever made it through all of them. I think it was kind of like someone said, oh, I know someone who's looking, and he'd go, okay, over here. But yeah, anyone, or if you're talking to anyone in the field that you're interested in. I used to meet people, like my daughter was in gymnastics, and I used to meet people when I was looking for work initially before I started research. And there were two people there, two fathers who worked in different labs. One was in a pharmaceutical lab and one was in a research lab. And it was interesting talking to them because one of them said to me, Renee, you're not going to like this lab at all. Because pharmaceutical is very rigid. It's very time clock in, time clock out, and you're doing the same thing over and over again. And he was going, I can give you a job, but you're not going to like it. But yeah, it's amazing where you can meet people who can kind of help you get in the door. But you got to talk to people and you got to kind of get yourself into that.
Getting out there and exposing and presenting yourself.
Yeah.
Just waiting for not a specific moment, but always be able to talk to people and be social. That's good.
Yeah, and if they're working on something you're interested in, you got to talk to them about it. Yeah, just get in there and say, I'm really interested in doing something like this. And yeah, because labs are always hiring, like not like always hiring, but people leave, come and go all the time. So they are looking for people, and it's daunting the number of resumes come in, and some people know something and some people don't know any of it, they just need a job. So if you can get in there and get them to remember your face, I think it's probably the easiest.
Thank you, Professor.
You're welcome. It was nice talking to you.